right, Kim, are you ready?
I am ready.
All right, Ty, you ready?
Always.
All right. Time out. Tyler, who are we taking a timeout with today?
Good whistle right there, Kevin. Well, Kevin, thanks, man, for having Kim Brumber on the show, everybody, ladies and gentlemen, and of course, children of all ages. Kim Brumber is a local leader up there in the 585 in the Rochester, New York neck of the woods where I used to roam. Kim, thanks for being on the show with us. And I'm always curious at where in the heck are you going to take Kevin and I out to eat if we were going out for lunch this afternoon?
Oh, if we were going out to lunch, I would be really content with, it's a beautiful sunny day here in Rochester. I would say let's grab some subs at a great local sub shop and let's go find a freaking park bench and just enjoy the weather and some really unhealthy food in each other. More important.
Yeah, are we hitting Calabricellas up or DeBellas? What? You got to get specific with me here, Kim. Meals?
DeBella's is the easy go-to, right? That's the local sub shop, I guess now. Yeah, let's do that. The real question is hot peppers or not.
Oh, I'm a hot pepper guy. I like it spicy. I'm a big spicy guy. Yeah.
Gotta go hot.
The hotter the better for me. Yeah. If I'm not sweating, it's not hot enough. Yeah.
Good. We will have a good time. Like Richard Simmons would have said, sweating with the oldies. You'd be here with me. Yeah.
Well, while we're sitting out on that park bench, enjoying one of the few sunny days that we have here in Rochester, with that fat DeBella sub, especially because they have great seeded bread. What music would you ask to turn on? Should we, as we're headed over to the park, what's your music request that you would demand Tyler and I play while on our ride over there?
So are you looking for a genre or a song?
I'll do song.
Oh, we need a song,
okay.
Cam.
So, for me, you're picking on an old, my original path was going to be to music school. So I have really broad music taste, but so my favorite song or song of the moment tends to go with the times, what's going on in the universe at a given time. And I've been listening a lot recently to Alicia Keys and Brandi Carlile. They have it's a pretty new song, and it's called A Beautiful Noise. And it's really about having a voice. And, I think the beginning of the song, they start out, my voice started as a whisper, and then they talk about their voice becoming a scream. And I just think that's really, it's the moment we're in. I think we're in a tipping point as a society and moving to a kind of extreme place in that tipping point. And I think that song does a great job at talking about the voice that each of us have in the moment.
Wow. Dude, powerful.
Awesome. It takes a while to find your voice, in my experience, and once you do, it's like, here's the human megaphone, all for the best. I do my best to be an active listener, but golly, it feels good to have a voice that people can actually trust nowadays, Kim. But I was going to ask you at this picnic that we're at right now with, our DeBellas, our hot peppers, our what is it? The everything bread, I think is what I used to go with. If you could have three people, any dead or alive, in the history of mankind, who would be eating with us right now, Cam?
Well, for me, I'd be inviting Dolly Parton first. I have a recent girl crush on Dolly Parton. I grew up country, rural, and I've learned to really recently have a new appreciation for her music, but more so the severe, really successful female business person she is. So that she would be important. One of my go-tos has always been Mother Teresa. That attitude of service to me is just so admirable, and to be able to have a conversation with her. And last but not least, and sorry, I'm going all female on you guys. The last seat at the table would be Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
Ooh,
okay.
That's a good. Those are three very powerful women, and I too. My wife is the one actually educating me on Dolly Parton and how much of a businesswoman that she is. Believe it or not. and she did not have the easiest of lives. We've actually recently watched a documentary featuring her as well. So pretty impressive stuff. And you're not foreign to finding your voice. You have been in 3 leadership positions here in Rochester. And I'm sure you've had to share your voice in each and every one of them, especially being more focused on that not-for-profit space. Can you tell us walk us back to that first day that you became or were announced president and CEO? Can you tell us what that felt like, and who did you call first?
That first day. So that goes back a long ways. That's 24 years ago from the first one. Who did I call first? I actually called this older gentleman. His name was Red Gramlich, and the Gramlichs, local family. Red, when I took over at NeighborWorks Rochester, what was then Neighborhood Housing Services, we renamed it under my leadership. Red was an early retiree from Kodak. He had been an executive, and I think when I met Red, he was already in his late 80s or early 90s.
Wow.
And I was told this man will always have an office as a volunteer. That's what my board told me. And Red had connections in the Rochester community. He was still fundraising for the organization as a volunteer, and he was just astute and knowledgeable and kind, probably more important than anything, and just had that giving heart. So he was probably one of my very first outreaches, if I remember correctly.
Wow. How cool.
Dude, awesome, Kim. And Kim, I'm fired up to have you on here this afternoon. And I think I'm going to ask just the fun questions for a little bit now, if that's cool with you guys. I love presidents and CEOs. And I'm sure we'll, of course, get into more of your path to the way there, because that's always interesting to me. It's always interesting, when you're growing up, you're like, how the heck do you be a CEO? Do you go to CEO school? But I was going to ask you, actually, let's hit on that real quick. Could you kind of let us know when you were like, you know what, America, I'm Kim Brumber, and I'm going to be a CEO or a president, by golly. Like, does that just happen one day when you're eating your oatmeal in the morning, or?
Tyler and I are still waiting. No.
I'm eating a lot of oatmeal.
That's funny. Yeah, well, I guess for me, it just kind of happened. If you'd asked me in high school, I grew up in very rural America, and the professionals I knew were teachers. Everyone else was either, pretty much a farmer, factory worker, laborer of some sort. So, and originally I thought, oh my God, I'm going to be a teacher. My probably original dream was architect, but back in my day, you had to actually be able to manually add, subtract, do complex, fractions and that to do all the angles, and God knows I can't do that stuff. So that got nixed pretty quickly. Today, a different story with computers, but anyways, so the CEO path, I just told somebody this the other day, from a very young age in school, I was constantly the one picked for leadership positions, so you kind of, I think, build that leadership muscle. So whatever someone sees in you, I've learned to see that in others, where they probably before they see it themselves oftentimes. And a lot of times what happened to me is, I would work somewhere, and, pretty quickly they would put me in a management role. So my first job was at a locally owned pet store. And at 21 years old, I was made manager of a store. And, I had employees a lot older than I was. And so, after college, some career, moves, that I was just never content working for other people, because I have really strong ethics, really solid work ethic, values to how I want to work, how I want to treat people. And I just always felt like no one else measured up. And it was hard for me to work for other people that I felt, I think, if I'm honest, that didn't kind of have the same high standards as I did. So eventually, I'd taken a job at NeighborWorks as a neighborhood revitalization expert. And pretty quickly after that, there was a CEO transition, and that's how I ended up applying for that job. And, I think you just kind of get put into places and roles where you hone those skills. And there's a big debate if you read some of the leadership literature about is it kind of a nature or nurture trait, right? And I think it's both. I think there are core aspects of leadership that you can teach somebody, but I think for certain people there's something innate that I think it's just there.
Yeah. And I was going to ask you that same exact question, because I was interested in, once you kind of said, always growing up, people were naturally drawn to you as a leader, and it was probably by your actions and by your ethics. They felt like they could trust you, and these are some of the things that we talk about instead of just the power equation, right? I think the power and the title is sometimes that was enough back in the day, where it was like, you have to, instead of you want to trust me or you want to follow me. It was more of you have. One of the things that you talked about is you're resting on your ethics and values. And I think that your ability probably to not let yourself do certain things based off of those ethics, whether it's the board asking you to do it or somebody else. Can you kind of talk to, I guess, what are some of the things that you value most, and what do you value most as a leader, and what do you look for in other leaders?
Well, for me, I actually struggle with the word power. So, it's funny to hear you talk about that, because to me, you can't get away from power coming with a title. I mean, I clearly experienced that, where people treat me different because of that title of CEO or president. But to me, true leadership is about influence and service. And, it's important in my mind that you always earn your followership. You can try to demand it, but I have not found in my many years that things go very well when you try to do that. So really building that safe space, that trust that you mentioned, making people feel safe, feel heard, allowing people to have a voice. In my mind, as a leader, this is some of the leadership shift, I think, that's occurring in the world in general. It's a less bureaucratic process or system anymore, and more of a democratic or consensus building is what younger generations today want. They want to be involved, right? They don't want some old person like me barking orders at them. They want to know that they're engaged and that they're valued and that their voice matters and that they have something to offer. And to me, it's a harder way to lead. Trust me, it's uglier, it's messier, it takes more time. It's really easy if you can just, point to someone and say, do that, instead of engage them and learn from them. But I think better outcomes are achieved if you do it the way I just described.
I love that. And it is all about the outcomes. I think you can get the minimal performance outputs, which may be standard or average, right? But if you ask organizations, are you different? Yes, we're very different. Great. Do you like being average? No, we're better than average. We're amazing, right? And some of those things that you're talking about right there, it's like, can we do more? Can we get further together instead of just putting my own name on it? Thank you so much for that, Kim. I appreciate that.
Love it, Kim. And I'm going to go back to Pet World, back in the 80s, Kim.
Say Pet World.
Oh, I'm on you, Kim.
You are.
I did a rap sheet over here. So you're 21, 22 at Pet World, managing people in their 50s. What did they see in you, Kim? What did they bring you in the office and they were like, I mean, you're slinging a lot of dog food out there, Kim. I think you're going to be the manager. What did they tell you?
It really wasn't that they told me anything. I think back, I actually just went into Pet World last night. I haven't been in a long time into one of the stores that I ran. My wife wanted to buy a dog toy for one of our furry relatives. So, I was thinking about Jim Sidewan, who was one of the two men that started Pet World, and I've been blessed. I grew up in this kind of wacky, pretty traumatic situation, abuse, neglect, very poor. But I had these key people all through my life. I can look back, just sprinkled, like the right person at the right time to give me what I needed to take that next step. And Jim was that guy when I worked full time to put myself through college. And so here I am, I'm going to school. I think I'm going to be a teacher. And Jim started bringing me by his side and showing me the mechanics of the business. And it wasn't that he said, geez, Kim, I think you're great. You should be a leader or a manager. It was that whatever he saw or thought he saw, he wanted to teach me. He was a teacher. And the best business course I could have ever taken, and really was a pivotal part of why I actually abandoned the teaching degree, and I ended up with a dual major with psychology and business management. And it was because of Jim and his willingness to show me the ropes.
What did you learn from psychology that makes you and now we're hearing emotional leadership? And I would like to lean in with, it sounds like you coming from relatively nothing or coming from a challenging background, and teachers being the, I guess, highest title that you were recognized within the professional world per se, or what we perceive as the professional world. And your first job being in a more service-driven industry. How much better did that make you? Was it that, or what you learned in the classroom that made you a more emotional or emotionally intelligent leader?
I think both, honestly. I think the ability to have the academic training and understanding of human behavior. I mean, I have books on my bookshelf today that are from college that talk about human behavior, organizational behavior as a result of human behavior, right? That academic piece is I still lean on, but to know it academically is one thing, to be able to actually apply it is a different thing, right? That's a skill. And so I would say that being able to lead and manage people at such a young age, it's the school of hard knocks, right? Like, I'm sure I did really boneheaded stuff. I still do really boneheaded stuff as a leader. We all do. We're human if we're honest about it, right? Like, there's no perfect leader. And I was able to hone my craft by taking those academic concepts and applying them in real life very quickly.
That is awesome, Kim. I'm all about the school of hard knocks, Kim. I love it that you brought that up, because if you haven't been through it, I don't know if I believe you. I'm wired kind of just like that. And I was going to ask you, where do you think you learned? You said Jim came into your life at a perfect time. But I mean, before Jim, I mean, you were 22, running Pet World. And who do you chalk it up to learning those ethics as a young adult? Like, where did it stem from before you met Jim, and it sounds like a few other key folks in your career and your life?
Yeah, I think growing up rural, farmers have the hardest. They are driven. They are up early, to bed late. You can't stop because they can't take a day off from milking the cows. That, old Bessie ain't letting that happen.
And you can't call in either. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So, for me, it was up before school to do, take care of the animals, You get off the bus in the afternoon, you take care of the animals again, right? You always, I just think at a very young age, you learn that there's a responsibility and a necessity at some level. And, I still am an early riser. I think I attribute that to growing up that way. You didn't sleep in. And that's fine. Mornings are beautiful. But so you had that training, right? That went on every day of my life. And then I think layered on that, I was a good kid, a good student. Well, I won't say a good kid. I was actually a little bit of a troublemaker, but because I was a really good student, I flew under the radar most of the time. But, so I had teachers, I think, that recognized that that things at home weren't right at some level, right? And they nurtured me, and they gave me that belief in myself enough that allowed me to keep kind of trying new things and pushing myself. Like I'm the last of 7 kids. My story is that my parents had to keep going until they got it right, and they did, thank God. So, I'm the baby by 14 years difference.
Wow.
And where was I going with that one? Wow, I don't usually bring that up. But anyways, they the teachers were able to, I think, see that that I needed something, probably that love and that I use the word nurture, but that care and protection. And they would lift me up and kind of allow me to go to the next place. So when it came time, senior, junior, senior high school, and everyone's talking about college, all my peers, because I was in the, the Regents good kids class, my farm, rural, poor parents never prepared for a child to go to college. But I was just determined enough that I wasn't going to have that kind of life. And I was going to do and be something different. And I figured it out on my own, and with the help of guidance counselors and teachers and all of that. But
I just think about your story, and then I think about the inner city of Rochester, right? And you think about just the same almost experience. Yes, it's rural, and now you're going very metro driven, but same experience, right? If you grow up into that world and it's the only world that you only believe that there's certain opportunities and certain potentials out there for you. And I loved how you put that. But you have to be comfortable with who you are, Kim. And I guess I have a twofold question. When did you get comfortable with who Kim Brumber was? And from me, from my perspective, I think you touched on it earlier, is sometimes we need others to help identify our strengths and then also help us at certain stages of our careers or our life journey. I needed Tyler. I tell people that quite frequently, right? I'm not kidding. It happened at that perfect stage at that perfect time that him and I just happened to network with each other. But when did you get comfortable with who Kim was? And second to that is, when did you get comfortable allowing your ethics and your values to help you guide decision-making and changes necessary?
Yeah, those are great questions. And I think it's a little messier for some of us. So it's no secret that I have a wife. So I'm part of the LGBTQ community. And, so I graduated high school in 1980 in rural America, right? And I knew that being gay, so to speak, was not okay. That was all the message I knew. So I think for me, going to college was a big deal because it got me out of the rural environment. It got me around other educated people, people with different upbringings than myself. I rolled into St. John Fisher with my rusted old Gran Torino thinking I was all that and more. And I pull up next to these shiny BMWs and, Mercedes. And I was like, who drives those? And it was the other students, right? I was like, oh crap. I am so screwed. but you have those moments where you realize that those you know symbols of success, right, aren't all that. And I I think that it's really, if I'm honest, I'm still getting comfortable in my own skin, and probably leaving my CEO job I guess it's been almost 2 months ago, really now, was a big part of that. Like I'm going to be 60 in a few days, well, not a few days, few weeks. And there's something about needing to be able to be fully authentic as we age. That's important. And I've, don't hear this wrong. I have loved being a CEO. It has fed my soul. It has allowed me to do great things through my work. But it is time for me to tell my story, to just be able to be me, and not me through the window of knowing that everything I say can be interpreted to be owned by the company that I work for. So, I would never want to make comments publicly. Like if we had done this interview 2 or 3 months ago, I'd have probably been much more conservative in my comments, more careful, more cautious, because I know that everyone would not only be saying Kim Brumber, but they would be thinking East House, East House, East House, which is great. It's a great organization. But that became constraining over time, always being the face of an organization. So I'm probably just really starting to fully own my authentic self, and it feels really good.
Really cool. And I think Tyler helped me come in more to my authentic self and really show me that, I don't know why, but I think that it seems like we all are kind of going through this journey together during the pandemic, but how our company that we worked for was almost synonymous with our middle name or first name, right? And almost the exact same. It's like, oh, that's where you work. And all of a sudden now that's my different perspective. And just like we were joking about before we got on, is like, that's typically when the first time we're meeting anybody, it's hey, the weather looks great. And, oh, what do you do for a living? And for whatever reason, we're just so hardwired that way, that your job is your life and makes you who you are. And here we all are kind of going through this warp speed journey together over the last 2.5 years, realizing that American dream is so much different and bigger than what we were oversimplifying it almost. It's a lot bigger. There's a lot more pieces to the puzzle. And here we are now talking about mental health and physical, emotional, financial, and career well-being. It's just a place that in my short 10 years in working in this world, I can only imagine you being a member of the LGBTQ community and still coming into the work environment, how challenging that is, and how much more barriers there were to entry than me being a white male coming into the working world where pretty much everybody else looks like me and went in those leadership rooms. So I guess that is awesome. And thank you so much for sharing that you're on this same journey as Tyler and I, because I'm in my 30s and you just said you're entering your 60s, but we're still going through this journey together. And I think it's that continuous evolution, which gets me really, really excited.
Dude, all the above, man. Absolutely. Whether it's, finding yourself on a Zoom or in a church basement, it doesn't matter. And Kim, I literally wrote down like 5 minutes ago while you were sharing with us, I wrote down, do you ever have a chance to tell your story? Because I think you could help out a lot of people, almost including yourself at the same time, in my experience, on where you came from and where you are now, and kind of telling people that no matter where you are, you might not be comfortable, and then until you kind of get down to the nitty gritty inside your chest, CEO, president, farm girl, whatever case may be, in rural America, LGBTQ, all that combined. Do you ever get to share your story like 100% authentic, or has it kind of been kind of coded with the CEO title as of the past few years?
I think by and large it's been coded, unfortunately. I think back to fairly early at East House, I have a little speech that I do sometimes, which is about, your being your authentic self. And I remember after that thinking, God, I've found my tribe, because the world of behavioral health is really accepting, right? We meet people where they're at. Um, it's pretty non-judgmental in that. And but even with that, there's big pieces of my story that I felt like I had to just keep tucked away, sadly.
Mhm.
And I probably, part of my pandemic ahas, many of them, good and bad, is that that I can help others by just being honest about some of what I've lived through in my life.
Man, were we walking lockstep together through the pandemic? And I hardly even knew you, Kim. I feel like I had the same exact journey and experience, because when I met Tyler, I think he helped me identify that being myself was okay, that you no longer really had to be a chameleon and change who you were based off of who you were speaking with. And that was something that, obviously, growing up in sales, and my grandfather, my father, we all fought so hard to separate work from life, right? And never really shine a light on what we do in our professional or personal lives. And here we are during the pandemic, where you have kids crying and you got cats walking behind them. You're seeing guys in their stand up in their boxers. You're really getting that work is a part of our life. So it's interesting to hear that you too went through the same journey and found out that it's okay to be yourself. And that's what Tyler gave me, is to sometimes we take ourselves way too seriously. We take business way too seriously. At the end of the day, it's about who you are as a person, and it's okay to be human. It's okay to make mistakes, but shining and letting people in on your life is actually a benefit, because you all grow together. So I really, really love that. Talking about building trust in each of those positions, you obviously had to build trust with everybody on your team. And here we are talking about how important trust is today. How did Kim do that? Like, how did you typically go into an environment to build trust with not only your peers, but and other senior leaders, but also the employees and the frontline employees that sometimes are last to be thought about?
Well, I think the old adage that actions speak louder than words is so true. And unfortunately, not heeded by too many leaders. That is probably the primary way I've done that. And, really showing people that I care. When I would go into an organization, it's my nature to do what I call listening sessions. And, as I led bigger organizations, that got harder and harder because you got a lot of people, but I would group people and give everyone the opportunity to be with the CEO and tell me what was on their mind. And then, gather those trends and show them that you're taking action on their words. Or if you can't take action, which there's a lot of things you can't give people everything they want, unfortunately, as the boss. But tell them why, explain, bridge that gap of knowledge, so that they know that even if you can't act on what they've asked for, that you've heard them. And I think being heard really helps people to trust and believe in you as a leader. I just had a conversation the other day. I reached out to a young woman who worked for me at East House. She had left a couple of years ago, and I needed some advice from her on helping a teenager in a mental health crisis. And as we were talking, she said, Kim, it always amazed me that when you would walk through the halls, which you did often, you would always call us all by name. And you might be like scurrying to a meeting, but you would, like, if you saw one of us, you would pause, back up, say hi, ask how we were doing. So again, it goes back to your actions, right? People feel that. What is that other one? That it's not, people aren't going to remember what you said or something. They're going to remember how you made them feel. And so show them you care.
No. Well, you made it personal for them, and you made them feel special. If you stopped in your tracks and asked them how their day was, they just that small action leads to big impacts. So cool.
I could feel it all the way down here in Texas, Kim. Golly, you got me all emotional this morning. I don't know what's going on with me, but I'm over here like, yeah, that's exactly it. When someone calls you by your name, it matters. It's almost like it's on pen and it's on paper. It matters when you single out someone's first name. It's really cool to me how you went over that. And what's the next step for you, Kim? I mean, I think the sky's the limit for you. What's the next thing on Kim Brumber's list right now?
Well, that's a great question. So I keep talking to everyone who will listen about Kim version 2.0. So when you've been one thing for a long time, and it's a thing, especially I think that becomes your identity at some level when you're the face of an organization. I'm kind of flipping it. Instead of saying I want to be this, I'm saying this is now what's important to me in my life, and how can I craft the life that gets me what's important to me today. And if I had the opportunity to talk to and coach young leaders, which I actually hope is part of Kim version 2.0, I want to impress upon them the importance of taking more time to stop and smell the roses, because I as much as I love what I did for 24 years, I sacrificed a lot. I missed a lot of stuff with family and friends, and my wife gave up a lot to be the first lady. And it's time to flip that. It's time to work. I will probably work till I'm in my 70s. I'm guessing work is my addiction for sure. It's my drug of choice. And but I need to work in a way that gives me flexibility, that I can work less than 60 hours every week. I have a home, a second home, and we want to be able to split our time. So also work, whatever work is that can be done from different locations, and work where I can have a broader impact. I've had jobs that are impactful. Thankfully, they've been a real gift, but I think I now have the wisdom and experience that can also allow for a broader impact.
Love that. So cool. Kim version 2.0. That's really, really cool. And just hearing how you set that all up, it's funny because you pretty much work backwards from your values, your purpose, right? And what's important to you to find the career that enables you and allows you that. I too, and I know Tyler does as well, is we're kind of workaholics in some cases, right? It is almost addictive in some form or fashion, but you do have to stop and smell the roses. I have an 11-month-old son, and I think that was the wake-up call that I needed most, right? That total change of perspective, as to, well, what is your purpose here? And with people and on this journey, if you will, is how you continue to figure out what your purpose actually is. And I'm getting asked now from we have 2 interns here. I spoke to Roberts Wesleyan class this year, and all these kids want to know what purpose is. And it's hard to say, because to your wisdom and experience point, it's hard to know what your purpose is until you gain the wisdom and you go through those shared experiences, and then you determine what felt good, what you didn't like, and what got you out of bed. So Tyler typically asks this question, but I'm going to steal it from him today. What gets you out of bed, and what do you want Kim's legacy to be at this point?
Well, what gets me out of bed is always the opportunity to make a difference. And that can be, and I look back over my career, and even what Kim version 2.0 will be, I'm sure, and on things I just do on the side. It's always about making a difference, making something better, whether that's a human, right? Touching a human's life, a community, a place. I revitalized neighborhoods for a long time, right? You make that a better place. I always want to be making a difference.
That's so awesome. Thank you. And thank you for your leadership over the last 24 years in that role, because I'm sure you created a lot of apostles and disciples out there too, that share that same views and those same experiences. So that's really, really cool to hear.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm excited for Kim Brumber 2.0.
Me
like
too.
Kevin just mentioned. And like you said, you're valuing what's important to you first, which is really neat. I don't think as a society we've ever really thought like that. It's like, I want to be this. It's like, why? It's like, cause.
Right. I don't know.
I can't tell you why, but it's
They
because.
told me I should.
Because I'll be happy then, and I'll be able to tell my friends that's what I am, But I was going to ask you a really important question, Kim. What's the best tire on the market? I see you had some years at Goodyear. What kind of tires does Kim Brumber go with? Is it all season? What's the deal there?
Well, of course it's all season.
Okay.
It's so funny. Like that was like early 80s, and I know tires. The tire school. I was the only woman, of course. That's why they hired me, right? I was a woman who knew how to fix cars. And,
Wow.
yeah, all seasons, deep tread, something that pushes the water out from the center bar of the tire. Yeah, you'll be good. You need tires, Tyler. You give me an email and I'll hook you up with the best one.
Thank you, Kim.
That
Lifetime
is
promise.
hysterical. And I love what you said before that, because outside of tire selection, you're still helping people, right? And I think you've at every stage of at the pet store, at this role, at Volunteers of America, at all these different places, you've always made that, I believe, like your purpose and your what you're trying to get out is just enable somebody else's success. It's not about me. But there seems to be a lot of work to where you got from Kim 1.0 to 2.0. Is there anything that you can share of how you came to that it's, hey, it is my time to focus on what I want as Kim? And a lot of people are trying to find themselves right now. Is there any tips of advice that you would give anybody as they're trying to also determine, well, what does my future look like? Because I'm fearful if we don't envision a future, it makes life look very short sometimes. And without setting those goals, sometimes where are we going if we don't have that futuristic looks? But what did you have to learn from 1.0 to 2.0 that maybe you could share with the audience who might be going through something similar?
Wow, that's a deep one. Probably that being broken is okay. I think being in leadership roles in the community for so long and having so many people look to me to be, to lead an organization, to make them feel safe as an employee, that I felt that I had to be like this perfect, whatever that, I don't know, whatever they say the perfect leader should look like, right?
Yeah.
I think just the beauty and brokenness, and really the strength, probably even more than the beauty, but the strength in brokenness. Yeah. And I think that's part of what the pandemic did for many of us, for the world at some level. I believe that there's natural resets, and this world has been spinning crazily out of control. We might not have wanted to see that. This world, this country, communities within this country spinning out of control. And the pandemic, as ugly as it's been, has been a reset in so many ways. And I think I don't even think we know yet today what that full reset means, but it's happening. People have, they're owning their voice. People are slowing down, right? The number of establishments that are no longer open till 9 or 10 at night, it's because they can't staff them, but it's also creating this slower pace of life that I remember when I was a kid. The grocery store closed at 5 p.m. back then, right? Like you didn't shop at midnight or 3 a.m. like you couldn't. And I get there's reasons that we need to have some of that accessibility, but I think it had gotten too much for humans.
And it's okay to be broken. It's okay to fail. We're hearing all these types of things because it just gives you opportunities to learn. And back to your wisdom and experience, a lot of that's probably built through failure. It's through making mistakes. It's funny. I think that people remember success less often than they remember their mistakes in some cases. I think we harp on our mistakes instead of our successes. It's funny to hear you say in a leadership role, people were almost telling you how to lead or what you needed to do. And it sounded like you took a time out of your own and said, wait a minute, am I doing what they want me to be, or am I being who I want to be? And that's really, really powerful stuff, Kim. Thank you.
Dude, I just want to say thanks, Kim, for being on the show this morning, afternoon, whatever time it is over there. And good to finally meet you. I think we have a couple friends in common. And I've learned a lot from you, I felt you, you made me feel, Kim. It wasn't what you said, when you were talking about going down the hallway, saying people's names, it was just like, I got the chilies over here. So I just want to say thank you, Kim, for being on the show. Learned a ton. And Kevin, what do you got, man? I think I'm out of.
I think I'm relatively speechless, and you know how rare that is for both of us. But Kim, you really gave us a lot to chew, and I just appreciate you being transparent. And I think that transparency right now, to Tyler's point, telling your story, sharing your story, is how everybody gets to know that some of these things that they're feeling too, whether they're off on their own, they'll never share what they're going through. It gives them that little piece of validation that they're not crazy, or they're not insane, they're not nuts, that other people have similar feelings. And that's really when Tyler and I kind of came together, is that we were very open and honest. I really fought to protect who I was as a person a lot, and probably put a lot of energy into that, and didn't realize how much energy I was putting into that, instead of really truly being myself, which was the most powerful Kevin, 3.0, 5.0 at this point. You're only at 2. I'm like maybe step 5 or 7 at this point. But I needed to go through those experiences. And here I am as a father of an 11-month-old boy, as one of the happiest men that I can say that I've been in my 32 years of life. And but it takes this journey, this wisdom, and this experiences, and people like you at certain stages of my life to get here, and to say thank you, and to understand that it's okay to fail, and it's okay to make mistakes, as long as we own up to them, and learn from them. So Kim, do you have anything that you'd like to rest the last 4 minutes on here and share with us? Any other buckets of wisdom? Because I think Tyler, I'm up to like eight pages of notes here, Kim.
Yeah, I got some notes over here. I just keep writing. I'm like, oh, that's good.
That's probably the hardest question of all right there. What's that last nugget of wisdom, right? And don't listen to the haters. There's always going to be haters. Mm-hmm. I don't care what you do, who you are. I teased you guys about blowing the whistle because I was a volleyball official, and it was probably one of the best early jobs I ever could have had, because as a people pleaser, it taught me really early on that no matter what call I made, 50% of the people in the audience were not going to like it. And you know what? That's okay.
Yeah.
And please yourself, please yourself, please your spouse. Be true to who you are, and don't worry about the haters.
Love it. Think how much more freeing that is, how many shackles that we put on ourselves, just thinking what others will think of us, and assuming what they would think of us. So powerful stuff, powerful message, Kim. And just thank you so much for your thought leadership in your roles as CEO. And Tyler and I know are super excited to see what 2.0 brings for you. But I think you're going to have a lot of success. I think you're going to have a big impact and change a lot of people's lives. So just thank you so much for the impact that you're having here on our community. It's thanks to leaders like you that understand the roles that they're in and the opportunities that they have to really not only have the impact on their own employees, but also externally in the community in which we all live and work. So thank you.
You are very welcome. Thanks for this time, and so nice to get to know both of you.